Hi, I'm Linda Mechner, back again today with Why Eating Healthy is Not Enough. I'm here today with Amy Walker, a nutritionist from the UK who helps people heal their guts. Amy, would you like to tell us more about yourself and how you got into doing this particular work?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you ever so much for having me. This is very, very nice. It's 9 p.m. this evening in London. The weather's just starting to take a turn for the west into the winter. So it's nice to do something jolly in the evening. So my name's Amy. I'm a nutritionist. I run online courses called Base Balance Boost, and I help people with their digestion. So I kind of fell into it a little bit by chance and by accident, but the nutrition side was purposeful. So I've always been very sporty ever since I was at school. I mean, I wasn't very interested in the mathematics, or I don't know, the French and the history. I was always very interested in the biology and the PE, so it kind of stems way back from there. And I became a personal trainer and a fitness instructor when I left school in my early 20s, back in the glory days. And from that point on, I knew I wanted to know more, but it was kind of sparked by my dad falling ill. So my dad had a heart attack, and I was there when he had it. And it terrified the living daylights out of me. And I suppose at the time also, I was a bit of a party girl. I was young, you know, I had no cares. I was immortal. I was early 20s, you know, nothing was going to happen to me, was it? But when I was there with my dad, what it really made me realise is how fragile life is or can be. And I suppose at an age where you don't really think about that too much, it was really brought to my attention. And so something in me then just changed. It just changed completely. And I knew that I wanted to make this kind of thing stop for people, and especially my dad at the time. Didn't really know how, but I fumbled my way along, and like I said, I became a personal trainer and then aerobics instructor, fitness instructor, and worked in that for a couple of years. And I wanted to know more, so I did a couple of diplomas in nutrition and nutritional therapy, and then went on to do a degree in nutritional science. And the reason why I wanted to do a degree for my own personal achievement, but also because I kind of thought that if I learned enough, my dad would have to listen to me. But of course he didn't, because I'm his daughter, I'm his little girl, so what could I possibly know? He's still with us today and going strong, thank heavens. But yeah, still to this day doesn't listen to absolutely anything I say, but thankfully others do.
Right.
So
well, that's lucky that he obviously has a strong constitution.
yeah, he does. Oh, he does. Definitely.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it, really.
Well, what a great reason to get into nutrition. You know, it's interesting. A lot of people that come to the health work do it because of their own health journey. But I guess, you know, also being inspired to learn more to help the people you love is also a great reason to, you know, an inspiring reason to really walk on this path.
Thank you.
So you also said, like, you mentioned another friend that also was a big inspiration. Maybe you could tell us about her, because that piece of it was so interesting to me.
So I started off my nutrition journey, obviously helping people with cardiovascular, but what I was getting was, you know, a lot of weight loss, which is absolutely fabulous. But what I was really interested in was making people well. That's why I wanted to do it. I wanted to prevent what happens to our family happening to other families. And just on the side, I was working with she's my bestie. From my bestie, and she'd been a little bit sick, bless her, for a long time. So I started working with her, and she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which, for those of you who don't know, is a collective of symptoms, I suppose, that they bracket under fibro. So that's like chronic fatigue, brain fog, muscle aches and pains, digestive problems. She was in a really bad way. She could hardly get through her day. And I was like, well, you know, why don't you let me help you? And so we did, and we started working with each other, and you know, it was a long slog. It was a little trial and error, but she's also got ulcerative colitis, just to add on top of that. And yeah, we just started working together, and she's off the majority of her medication now. She's no longer working from home as much as she needed to. She still keeps it, you know, she still works from home partially, just so she can kind of maintain her health. But yeah, she's off all the medication, her energy's back, she's no longer got joint pain, she's sleeping better. So she's a very happy bunny. And I was delighted to be able to do that for her, because she is my friend. And it was that really that kind of sparked me, and working with another lady that I helped with her digestion, and I just really enjoyed getting into it and finding out about it, and you know what the bacteria does, and oh my god, this is fascinating, and there's just so much we don't know. Stuff. So yeah, that's that. Stop me before I go off on a mad one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know, so digestion as a niche is really, I think it's so key, because if you want to boil it down to what are the most impactful things you can focus on to change your overall health, digestion is absolutely one of those things. And you know, and there's so much to digestion. And one of the things that I find really exciting, and I don't have the time and bandwidth to dive in nearly as deeply as I would like to, is a whole frontier of the human biome. I mean, we've talked about, you know, the oceans as being the new frontier. You know, at one point, the Wild West in America was the new frontier. Space is a frontier. But now the new frontier really seems to be the human biome. And maybe you could say a little bit about that, because there's, you know, we have so much more knowledge than we used to have, and so little compared to what we will have.
I know, and it's still in its infancy, and so many people are the medical world is really starting to focus in a lot more on the gut. So I suppose for me, the part that I find fascinating is that there's literally trillions of bacteria in your gut. Okay, so, and we only know such a small percentage of that, like a tiny little percentage. And, you know, all the clever people at Harvard are running around trying to find out more about it. And what we're managing to ascertain is, like, you know, we've got the, you know, the bifidobacterium, and, you know, all of the lactobacillia within our guts ecosystem, and we don't know what a lot of them do, but what they're looking to do going forward is to take the science, find out more about the bacteria, and then tackle disease with the microbiome. So for instance, you know, colitis is an immune disorder where the bacteria starts to attack the intestinal lining. So if we can find out why that is happening, which no one actually knows yet, and repopulate the gut with the correct balance to prevent that bacteria from attacking the gut, then boom, you know, we've solved colitis. We haven't yet, but you know, but it's that kind of thing that makes it so fascinating, because we all know there's a good and bad balance, but actually so little is known as to what is good, what is bad, how many are even in there, how many different kinds are in there, and what their role is. So yeah.
You know, and I think sometimes we get stuck in this, you know, good bacteria and bad bacteria, but isn't part of it about a balance? Like, you have to have both. It's not like you can have, you know, it's not like there's bad bacteria that you need to get rid of all of it. You just need to have balance.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So it is literally about everything working together in harmony. It is an ecosystem. So you need absolutely everything to work in harmony. So you need the correct balance. I mean, we dub bad bacteria, but it's not, it's got its purpose. It just needs to stay in the correct balance.
Yeah. And so maybe talk a little bit about dysbiosis, or how people get depleted of bacteria. Because I think that is, you know, I mean, some people understand the gut bacteria and they take their probiotics and they're really on top of it. And for other people, it's like, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, so it can happen in many ways. So antibiotics. So if we're gonna start with how it becomes unbalanced, antibiotics. As a lot of people know, antibiotics are given to us to help fight infection. But unfortunately, what that does is kind of unbalance our bacteria and wipe out certain microbiomes. So it's all about repopulating that again. So antibiotics, especially when I was growing up as a kid, they were given out so freely. I mean, I think it's like, yeah, you've got a toothache, have some antibiotics. You know, you're feeling a little bit under the weather, have some antibiotics. And we didn't think anything of it then because they were making us feel better. So it's good to see that that's being reined in a little bit more, and they're only, giving them out now in absolute cases, which is great. So, antibiotics is a big one. Stress is a massive one. And this is kind of why I like to tackle, people with predominantly women, but men also. I have men clients with really stressful lifestyles, because stress is now being, thank heavens, now actually being recognized as one of the things that's actually causing our bodies such harm, and it's actually going down and being recognized now that it's really affecting the digestive system, not just in the sense that it has an impact on its function, but also on its population.
Yeah. It's funny because stress is such a hard thing to quantify, right? Because something that's stressful to one might not be stressful to another. Some people are good at dealing with stress and some aren't. I mean, it's such an amorphous thing. But what I was going to say too, I remember when I was in college, I think I went to, I don't know, the hub or whatever we called the medical building. And I don't remember what I went in for, but the guy looked at me and he's like, "Oh, you've got some pimples. Would you like some tetracycline?" And, I'm a college kid, no pimples. Of course I want that. And so I took tetracycline for years. And, that wasn't the beginning of my health woes, but it certainly made it worse. And then I hear that story from so many people that are on this never-ending health quest that, getting, antibiotics in college for skin issues was the beginning of their downward slide.
I had it too.
Yeah.
For years. Yeah, for years.
And so how, let's say somebody is on a health journey and they have all kinds of health issues. I mean, at some level, it doesn't even matter what, because if you boil it all down, it always comes back to the gut. So what are some of your top tips for helping for people to rebuild their gut, to help them rebuild?
Okay, so it's kind of what my the course that I'm running is all about with my clients. So it's about identifying what it is that removing the things that harm the gut and repopulating it with the things that actually work with it. But also taking a look at what could be causing that as well. So external factors like we just mentioned, stress, have you been taking antibiotics, have you got a family history, all of these kind of things. But I think that I would take my clients through a bit of a kind of a journey, a re-educational journey. So I think you just need to look at where you are now. I like to base my clients, find out where they are now, and then you need to kind of heal and balance the gut for a little while and quieten it down. And then I boost the gut. So whilst we're healing, we're giving all the stuff we like. So we're boosting its production and its wellness and its healing. And then at the end, what we do is we start to reintroduce the food and we identify the triggers. So I like to kind of teach people how to just give the gut a break and educate them on what it is that the gut actually needs. And that generally seems to work quite well.
So do you do like food allergy testing, or do you do elimination?
Yeah, so on my course we do elimination, but I also work with laboratories in the UK that run tests for me. I remember when I first got my first kit, maybe about 6 years ago, and it had a blood tube in it. And I thought that they wanted me to take it. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't take this. I'm like, I think there's been a mistake. And then they explain to me, that you give it to your client and they take it to the clinic. I was like, that would make more sense. So yes, I do offer testing as well. And we do testing. So if I can tell, if they're clients normally come to me if they've got an IBS or a colitis. So I basically know that a removal system is going to work exceptionally well for them.
Mm-hmm.
If people come to me with fibromyalgia, I know that a removal repopulation is going to work exceptionally well for them, and giving them all the bits and bobs that they need to heal the gut lining and make the gut integrity really strong. But if there are other things going on, then I do like to test them, yes. So my fibro clients, I also like to test them. There's a great test by Genova Diagnostics called the One Test. It tests you for everything. It's a marvel, and you know exactly what you're working with. So yeah, both options.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And food allergies, food intolerance was a big part of my personal journey. And the elimination diets never worked for me because I wasn't sensitive to the normal things. It wasn't the dairy, it wasn't the gluten. It was things like apples and lemon and kale, literally. And, you know, I felt like a crazy person because I literally felt better eating pizza than I did eating a healthy kale salad. And it wasn't until I did the testing that I was able to identify and remove the food so that I could actually start to feel better and heal my gut.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, well, I love testing. I absolutely love testing. But I think it's, you know, tests can be slightly costly. So, there's pros and cons for testing and removal. I mean, in your case, obviously, if I was to, you know, take a client through the removal, you're going to know pretty quickly whether they are or they're not seeing.
Yeah.
You know, because it happens within the first couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's then that if I kind of think, okay, we need to delve a little deeper here, because I work quite closely. It's an online course, but I touch in regularly with them just to really give them the support that they need. And yeah, so if I can see that something's slightly amiss, or things aren't going the way they should, it raises a big question mark, and I'm like, okay, so we can delve a little bit deeper. Some people, however, like to go straight into testing. It kind of depends on the person. So the removal process is obviously a little bit longer,
right,
but a lot more cost effective. If you can go the testing route, then especially when it comes to sensitivities in this kind of case, if you go the testing route, you're going to know kind of what it is quicker, but you're not actually getting the educational piece around how you're healing, how to heal the gut as well. You're just kind of finding out, unless you're a nutritionist or you choose your nutritionist to take you through that with you, or your health professional or dietitian, then you're not going to get that educational piece. You're not going to get that, I suppose it's the psychology of change piece that comes into working with someone for a long period of time. So they've definitely got their pros and their cons, and both work if they're applied correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes a multi-pronged approach. You need to work with the food, you need to work with the emotions. Sometimes you need testing and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you need outside therapies, sometimes you don't, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So, I mean, what a great niche to help people with this core, I don't know, core fundamental aspect of what health is built on.
Thank you. I love it. I do love it.
And I know you have a free gift for our listeners. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we put together a short course. So For those of you that suffer from gut health or want to know a little bit more, I've put together a free online course. It's called Base Balance Boost Inflammation, and it's a short mini course, doesn't take long at all, that will give you some information on a digestion overview, how your digestion should be working, and also how to combat inflammation. So one of the most common things I suppose people sort of come to me is I'm always bloated. So I'm like, okay. So it's not even necessarily, that's always like, especially with women, it's a primary concern. I'm always bloated, but like they have so many other things that are coming off the back of that I would deem more serious, but the bloating for people seems to be quite big, you know. So that's very great. So I've put together a short mini course that explains all about digestion in a really high level, easy for people to understand, and also how to combat inflammation and what kind of things you can eat that help.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your wisdom and your experience, and talking specifically about this key topic. And I cannot emphasize enough how important just simple digestion is to overall health. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you ever so much for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will see you later. See you all later. See you on the next one. And have a good day. Bye.